We got, speaking of scabbards and cases and stuff, and speaking of felony repeals, I like felonies being repealed for peaceful people. I'm kind of into that. And this is our 8th one this year. And this happens because, one, and in fact, let me back up just a little bit. People say, well, what's the value of being an OK2A member? Well, we help give you a guide on who to vote for, because we've either done a survey for a new candidate or we're providing a history on their voting record. So we've done both. Now, and tonight we're going to be presenting an award, and believe it or not, I love this, Freshman of the Year award. This is a guy first year in there. He was an author for constitutional carry. Right off the bat, not a co-author, he was an author for it.
Wow.
Yeah. One of many, but still good deal. Also, when I had approached him, and this worked out great because God's pretty cool about figuring things out for us sometimes. I needed someone to run our bill on the repeal of the Mossberg shockwave, because it's considered a sawed-off shotgun under Oklahoma law, but federal law doesn't care. It cracks me up. You can have them in California and New York, but it's a felony in Oklahoma. So I'm getting that look again. I need a picture of that look. She's like, God, this stuff is stupid. Yes, ma'am. That's our job. We're taking the stupid out of a lot of laws. See, she may not come back now. But we take the stupid out of a lot of these laws. But again, we identify a problem. I learned this right off the bat. You identify the problem, you provide a solution to the problem, and then you supply the support, working with intelligent people that are dedicated to the Constitution, and this is what we get, Freshman of the Year. So I would like to invite Mr. Jay Stiegel, Representative Jay Stiegel, sir. Would you come right on up here, if you would, sir? Oh, he's worth applauding for, folks. I can't believe it. Yeah! There you go. You got it? Come on in here, because you're going to get to talk to a little bit.
All right.
Now, so Representative Stiegel, it was so cool. It was so cool because I tried to interview legislator or candidates, before we endorse them. And he called me from an undisclosed place on the other side of the world that he couldn't tell me where he was at, serving our country. So he doesn't just serve our country; he serves our state. He serves our state well. And like I say, the Senate Bill 24 is his name on it. Which makes a shockwave and the TAC 13 and 14 legal. And the other cool part about it is he is a FFL. He sells firearms. So when we need someone to deal with something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you're first looking at it, he knew exactly what we're talking about. And so it's great to have someone to speak with that confidence and authority, whether it be in a committee on the floor or someone just comes up and asks him a question about the bill. And because it cracked me up, and I don't know if they came to you, but the Oklahoma Sheriff's Association came to me with the bill, and they go, Don, what are you doing here? Okay, these are people that deal with this stuff. So I said, we're trying to make the shockwaves legal. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, no problem, got it. So anyway, State Representative Stiegel presented it in committee. Absolutely no problem. I can't remember what the vote was at committee. There's always two people voting against it. Then on the floor, with such confidence, there was one question, and then let's vote, and that was it. And like I say, that comes from respect. It comes from understanding and what's going on. So this award reads, in the highest recognition and appreciation to the legislator who was the most aggressive defender of the return of a God-given right of self-preservation by authoring and advancing legislation that reflects and supports the U.S. Constitution, and for Oklahomans' Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, this year goes to freshman Representative Jay Stiegel. There you go, sir. I told you he did. There you go. We'll share our pictures.
Well, I'm under direct order.
Are you? Oh, direct orders. By the way, before you run on, he was out of the country. Here was knocking the doors. And I love this because she goes up holding an iPad, letting him be able to talk back and forth.
Wow.
Come on up here. Come on, Kim. Yeah, come on. Oh, well, let's do this. Let's do this. There we go. Got it? All right. So anyway, now I'm not going to find this in the pawn shop in an hour, am I?
No, I'll at least wait till Friday.
But Kim, thanks until Friday. So, but I appreciate, because for him to be in office, you talk about he had the support. It was absolutely impressive. And I can't get involved in a campaign, but I can stand back and watch. And it was a pretty well-oiled machine that was coming out of there. So this is what you've got as a freshman working for the state capitol. And this is where OK2A shows you who we suggest and why, and here's why. So I'm going to let you say a few words there, sir.
Well, thank you, Don. First off, I want to say thanks to Don Spencer and OK2A for all the hard work that they've put in this year. It's been an absolute pleasure working with them this year. I felt like all of our firearms-related bills, all of our liberty-related bills had some good backing to them, and it's because of the research that we get from guys like you, Don, and out of organizations like OK2A. So thank you so much for your support and your willingness to go out on the limb to help those of us that still believe in our constitutional protected rights and give us the tools that we need to fight those fights. So thank you for that. And of course, thanks to my wife for helping on the campaign last year. She's so bashful, in case you can't tell. Now, she's not the only campaign supporter that we had with us, and not even the only one we have in the audience today. We've got Mr. Mark Thomas with us today, too, from Canadian County, and living right there in Yukon, one of my constituents. So thank you for all your support.
One of your proud constituents.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We know we've got a lot of work ahead of us, and we're looking forward to working with Don and OK2A again next year. We're waiting on Don to unveil all the legislation as timing dictates so that we can tackle those battles next session. My experience in this is I do own a gun store there in Yukon. I also operate one of the largest outdoor open to the public gun ranges out in El Reno. So I'm glad to know that you're leaning on what experience and expertise I have in the area. It has served me well in the legislature. I'm able to communicate with our fellow classmates and senior leaders on what this is going to mean for our constituents. And it gives us a little bit of validity to the legislation that we're trying to pass. And we can do that with confidence. Like Don said, when we presented SB 24 in committee, I had one question from one of the panelists in there. And it was a good, fair question. He was trying to get the reasoning behind all the dimensions that are talked about as far as why why the law really needs to change. And so I was able to ramble on for about 10 minutes about this in an attempt to thwart other questioning. And funny story, Representative Kennedy is the chairman for the Judicial Committee. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, "Man, I know who to go to if I ever need anything filibustered." So that was quite the compliment. And then when we presented it on the floor, again, we got one question. It was more for the bill than it was against it, even though it came from the other side of the aisle. But it came from a guy that typically supports our gun rights anyway. So I was happy to jump on board for that one. I was more than willing to get on board as an author for constitutional carry. And one of the big questions that I got, not just from my customers, but from fellow legislators, was this: don't you stand to lose business as a result of passing constitutional carry? And I said, I absolutely do. But it's well worth it. Because our constitutionally protected rights don't need to be monetized. And this is how you know you've lost your right: when the government takes it away from you and sells it back to you in the form of a license.
Yes, sir.
So we need to knock that crap out.
Yeah.
All right. So let's continue to support organizations like OK2A. And and believe me, they're working and they're working really hard for you to protect our rights. Thanks again for the award. This is very humbling, and I'm going to hang this on my wall down
As soon as
at
you
the
get
office.
one.
As soon as I get one
Yeah.
back.
Appreciate it very much. Right now, thank you very much. Second, third, fourth, and fifth floors are under massive reconstruction. They've actually got all of the legislative assistants across the street in another. I mean, they're sitting like in little cubicles, like it's a bunny ranch, and you've got little cubicles just right like that. So anyway, we appreciate you very much. Appreciate you making it tonight. And like I say, everyone out there in Facebook land, this is what we've got going and working for us. Tim's got a question. You got a question for him?
Representative Stegall, how's your car courier bill coming? Are you gonna introduce it again this session?
I'm letting Don lead the charge on that one. We're going to discuss strategy for next year, and if that's something that we're going to tackle, then we're going to get on board with it.
Okay.
Online question, they would like to know the name of your gun shop.
Oh.
And range, right?
And range. Okay, so if I can for a moment,
Sure.
I'll step out of my state legislator hat, and I'll tell you the name of my shop there in Yukon is called Cloverleaf Precision, and we run the Canadian Ranges outdoor range there in El Reno. Thank you. It is, right? Yeah, it's also known as the Banner Road Range, and a few others. Yeah, everybody knows where it's at. Okay, cool. I know you guys probably have some questions and some things that we want to discuss. I'm going to let you continue with your meeting.
Appreciate it.
And I'll hang around for a few minutes afterwards to meet you guys and answer any questions you have.
Well, we're getting ready to shut her down here, so we'll. But again, thank you very much. And like I say, it's completely selfish. I'll make sure it's understood. I want him to look good because we look good. So we want to give the right information, identify the problem, and we went over the bill, rehearsed the bill for I don't know, maybe even hours before he ever went out there. So we'd be prepared. Because like I said, we want to be prepared, and this is how it pays off. So again, appreciate your effort, and hang around. Yeah, don't run off just yet.
Thank you.